Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us this evening. I am Elise Adler, Director of Events for Parnassus Books. I am delighted to share tonight's event featuring bassist, songwriter, record producer, five-time Grammy Award winner, and a founding member of Béla Fleck and the Flecktones, Victor Wooten. Just as a reminder, you can purchase signed copies of his book, The Spirit of Music, from Parnassus Books, and we will go ahead and put the link for you to purchase in the Facebook comments. Tonight, we're going to be taking questions, so ask questions and put those in the Facebook comments as well. We are incredibly excited because tonight, Victor is in conversation with 15-time Grammy Award winner and founding member of the groundbreaking quartet, Béla Fleck and the Flecktones. I am so pleased to turn it over to Victor and Béla.
Hi, I'm Victor Wooten.
And I'm Béla Fleck. I play the banjo.
And I
How's
wish
it
I played
going,
the bass.
Béla?
You know, it's crazy times, but we're doing okay. We're hanging in tight. And you?
Same. I'm willing and dealing, and for the most part, happy to be home.
Yeah.
Not happy for the reasons that I'm home, but I'm making the most of it.
Silver linings.
Silver linings, yeah.
And we
We've
got full
been
body
going.
tattoos. By the way, our whole family got full body tattoos with the needles and everything. So uh, that was painful. But aside from that, we're all feeling pretty good.
Full body tattoos. Okay. I see you. I guess for most people, I don't know if everybody knows you had this big full beard and now it's short. So
Yeah. Started
it's like,
started fresh. Started
yeah,
fresh on the inauguration day. We had a little barber event,
nice,
a razor
nice.
event, and the kids had they got in on it, and this is the new me.
I like it.
Yeah,
It's just good to see you. It's been such a long time.
yeah. We had a nice
Seems like,
drive-by birthday party for Juno. I think that was the last
right.
time.
We drove, we had that drive by. We came to your parking lot and
Yep,
Juno was excited. That
that
was
was really
nice.
sweet. Yeah,
So when was that? What was sometime last year? What was the date?
it was May 19th.
Wow. So
Yeah, it's been a while.
I
Have we
haven't
not seen
seen
each
you
other
since
since then?
then.
Wow.
So let's not talk about the book. Let's just catch up, see what everybody's been up to. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you been doing any sessions on, from home for people or not playing on?
I have been, but pretty much as little as possible.
Hmm.
Um, you know, I mean, of the issue I've been dealing with my hands, the dystonia thing. So I've been really enjoying not playing and really working on getting my hands back in order when I don't have to undo it every night. We both enjoy playing, but we've been doing it a lot together for 30 years or more. I just want to take advantage as much as possible of this little bit of time off.
Yeah, yeah. Well, me too. I mean, this has never happened before in my life. I've never had more than a few months, and I was always compelled, to keep at it. I've always felt very lucky that I could work. I was always told I wasn't going to be able to make a living as a banjo player, and but I'm compulsive anyway. I don't think you're
Yeah.
compulsive, but you love
Fif-
to play music.
15 Grammys later, all those people who told you couldn't do it.
I owe them
Yeah,
all money.
right. But yeah, Bailey, I mean, we know each other well. I am the same way. I've been trying to take time off, but choosing the road and music because it's a gamble. It's almost like a lottery, to make it in this music business, and you got to, at least it feels like you got to take it while it's there.
Yeah, it feels like I think it's the freelancer's dilemma, which is that you don't know where your next gig is coming from. So any gig that comes up, you feel like you need to take. And the truth is, I know you've learned this, and I've learned it too. That sometimes the best thing you can do is say no to something, and it'll come back a thousandfold. It'll come back around in an even better way. But it's very hard to take that
Yeah,
stand when you feel, so fortunate to be able to do what you love.
exactly.
Yeah.
and you have two young boys now, and I've got
Yeah.
four kids,
Right.
and it's easy to see now what won't come back around is the time with them when they're children.
Well, it's karma. There's one of these things where you go through something and then from one end of a situation, and then a while later you find yourself on the other end of it. And so when you were having kids and we were trying to do the Flecktones, in this big full time kind of way, and you were like, I got to find a way to be home more. I got, all the stuff that you needed to do, and
Yeah.
we tried to work with you as much as we could. But I
And
know
did, yeah, yeah.
we tried. I know it's never perfect, but now I'm in that situation where people are saying, "Hey, can you go?" The agency, the manager, they're like, "Hey, great gig for you. Here it is. Sorry, man, I can't go. Then my kid's doing, he's doing a play,
Right,
or
right.
it's his golf meet or something, So it's like
Exactly.
so I'm experiencing it from and understanding a lot of what you were going through and the decisions you had to make, and it was a little tougher, I think, because we were such a full time band that it was. In my case, I do a lot of collaborations and a variety of things, and they can all, spaces can open up between them. It's a little easier for me to control. I'm not
Right,
putting anyone else out of work if I say it needs to be a month later or 2 weeks later. I'm
right,
not hurting
right.
anybody. So that's a hard.
Hmm.
So I appreciate how you always tried to make that work, but I also appreciate what you were going through.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And for me, I appreciate what Howard Levy was going through when we first started the band, because
Right.
Howard had two little kids,
Right.
and I was young and hungry and green, ready to tour.
Yeah.
And Howard has these two kids in Chicago. Then they were very young, and so I didn't quite get it back then until I had my own kids.
Yeah.
So hopefully at some point we all learn.
Yeah. It's good to experience things from the opposite side of
Right.
your original experience, even being a parent, with kids. But
Yeah.
somehow we're going to get this conversation around to your book. But
No,
I
this is more
remember,
fun, man.
well, this
I
is,
haven't seen you, but I will say this: you remember, especially the first book.
yeah, I
Uh,
do. I was going to say something about that too. Yeah.
um, I can't. The music lesson. Yeah,
Uh,
it's like I drew a blank.
yeah. Can
Um,
I tell the story?
please,
Yeah.
please.
So, we were on the road, and when you're on the road, you're busy at night, and the afternoon before, the day till sound check is your time to do whatever you want. And one day, Victor just changed. He just changed. He just said, "I got to go do this thing," and he just sort of disappeared into his bunk, and he just started writing. And it was like the electricity got turned on in him. He just got this idea, and he just started writing. And it wasn't like, um, you know how to write a book? I never done anything like that that I know of. And I think it seemed to me like it was about 2 weeks. But you remember better. He came out of his bunk, and it was like, "You want to read the draft?" It was like, whoa! And he had written this whole amazing book, the music lesson, and we were all like, wow. And somehow, for me, you had put your whole philosophy and all the people that you knew and were, had experiences with into this book. Your life story is in the book, even though there's a metaphysical sense of magic, which I think is part of your life too. But
Yeah.
so I thought maybe you could talk about that. How did that happen? What made all
Well,
that happen? Yeah.
you're absolutely right, Bela. For me, anyone should write a book. Everyone should, whether it gets published or not. You just enter a whole new world when you start writing, and it's the same with writing music. Right? Music starts speaking to you in a different way. But life is interesting. And, in my 56 years, I've had a very interesting life. I've seen the mystical, I've seen the magical, I've seen the impossible. I mean, people know me because I play with a banjo player, right? That was not in my, in my playbook. So life throws you curves. The main thing is to listen to them and figure out which curves you're going to take. And they're not always, uh, maybe not always the ones you expected, you know, but life knows better than me. And having learned a lot of stuff from my parents and seen a lot of crazy things, traveling around the world and seeking out these mystical, talented, or whatever kind of people. Um, when people, and a lot of these people started, following the example from a lot of these different people was why I started my music camp in the year 2000. But in the year 2000, after running camps, people were saying, write a book. You need to write a book.
Mm.
Because of the way I learned to teach from Reggie, my older brother, and you, the mentorship from you, um, from my parents, the information and the way I was sharing it at my camps, people were asking for a book, which is what I didn't want to do because I didn't want to have to own up to anything or defend anything. I knew that what I was saying and what I was talking about, especially if it was in a book, it would be questionable. It could be arguable. And so I thought people were asking for an instruction book. And I didn't want and still don't want a Wooten method. I don't want to tell anyone how to play. I want to point directions, point people at, things that will hopefully help them become better versions of themselves, not a second version of me or you or whatever. But when it finally hit me to write a story rather than an instruction book, then I could put real things in the story and not have to own up to it or not have to defend it, I guess is a better way. Because I own up to all of it. And the book is more real than fiction. So it's probably better to call it a fable or something, teaching through stories. But
Yeah.
when that idea hit Béla, basically the book was based off of a class that I had been teaching. I teach through parables anyway. I teach through stories, the way my dad did, so I just had to put these stories in an order that made sense. And that was the hardest part. I had the stories and I made an outline first based off of different elements of music, tone, articulation, technique, phrasing, space, listening. I have stories that demonstrate all of those when I teach music. And so it was just putting those stories into a cohesive beginning, middle, and end. And that was the hardest part. But the overall thing was pretty much already done because I had been teaching it that way in the camps.
Yeah, well, I saw so many familiar things in the book. I saw people that I knew, I could identify them, and they were like maybe expanded a little bit,
Yes.
maybe you had got taken some liberties with them to make them a more mystical figure, but there was a mystical quality to them. And they were obviously people that had shown up in your life as teachers one way or
Right.
another. Um,
Including Michael. Michael.
that's what I
Michael
was
Michael
thinking.
Cott.
Michael's a crazy dude. We all love him, but he's a way out there. And when you presented him in the book this way, I thought it was kind of genius because, he's either a sage or a crazy man. When it's up to
Right.
you. But
Yeah,
he's a
it's
very
up to you.
central
You don't
character.
know which one he really is, and he's
Yeah,
both at times.
and you captured that in the books.
Yeah.
Um,
But I also realized that a book could only be so long,
yeah,
so many pages. And when I wrote that book with these characters and all the characters except one in that first book, the music lesson, all the characters except one were based off of real people,
yeah.
like Michael, who we know. My good friend bass player Chuck Rainey
Hmm.
was the like the model of my character Uncle Clyde.
Right. Sifu, is it Brian Edwards?
Well, yeah. Now Brian's in the new book.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in the new book, The Spirit of Music.
And he's a
Sifu
Wing
Brian
Chun
Edwards,
instructor, right? That was one of your. He was a
Kung
Wing
Fu
Chun instructor.
instructors,
Kung Fu
Wing Chun Kung
instructor.
Fu. Yeah,
Right. So
and
that was interesting how you took all these different elements in your life and were able to put them all into the book because I've known you, as a musician. Now I'm the kind of person who, when we're not playing music, I'm playing music. If I'm not, if I'm not playing music, I'm uh, working on music, thinking about music. I'm just a very obsessive character about music. Now, when you're not playing music, you're doing all these other things. You're learning martial arts. You're a break dancer.
yeah.
You're developed this neat
I
relationship
love the
with Dan
outdoors.
Levitan.
Yeah,
Are you reading books about like, yeah? Then of course your outdoor the nature thing. I'm sorry, I'm telling you who you are, but I'm doing it for the people out there that don't know you that well. Not, I know you know who you are. You're one of the few people who does. But I love the way you managed to do that in both of the books and find and in fact some of the things that happened in the new book, were things that I realized you had done at camp. Like for instance, folks might know about this. Victor is trying to teach people, tell me if I'm saying this correctly, but about being more aware of what's happening around you, not just having your head so down. And so one of the things he would do when people first came to the camp, there'd be a big meeting in the in I guess the food building, and
Yeah,
you
yeah, the
have
pavilion.
situated yourself up in the rafters, just sitting there, and everybody would be like, "Where's Victor?" For a long, long time, nobody would ever look up and see that you were right there the whole time.
Yeah.
And you finally, I don't know how you announced yourself and how you finally, but I saw you using that in the new book. Also, I knew that you hid yourself in camouflage off of the trail under leaves and dirt,
Yeah.
and so there's all kinds of really interesting things so that you've come up with to do that end up in the books. I think it's
Hmm.
really fun.
And Béla, it's a lot like you writing music. You know, if you go to Africa and you hear that sound, that winds up in your next record or your next music song or whatever. And for me, because of my brothers as well as my parents, they were just interested in so many different things. And you know, my brothers, you know, Roy's always talking about something crazy. It's always crazy, you know. You know, Joseph, I got into playing soccer because of Joseph. You know, some people know that I like to do magic, but I started that because of Reggie.
Mm,
You know, you've seen me juggle and ride unicycles. I learned that both of those from Rudy, you know.
right.
So my brothers, me being the youngest, they were always into different things. And so putting these different things, well, first having lived doing these different things, putting them in the book was easy because they're just real stories.
Well, it's very
And it's
much like
how to
you, for like everybody to be begging you for an instruction book, and you say, "No, I'm going to do it my way. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I feel like doing." I really love that about it. And your brothers are and you are really amazing people, very unusual people. Like you're all like sages and Buddhists, but in very different ways. Like everybody's got a different area that they're focused on, and every one of you guys could teach can teach different things to a person that was lucky enough to be around them. And I always thought that
thank
was a
you.
neat thing musically about the Flecktones, and I'm taking it back to us, is that when we started the band, it always felt like any one of us could be the teacher to the other guy. So maybe that was familiar to you because of your brothers.
Yeah.
That feeling.
It was familiar to me because my brothers have always, as far as I can remember, been outside of the box.
Yeah.
There just was no box for them. And I think it came from my parents who grew up poor and had to be that way,
Mm,
you know, because you couldn't buy what you wanted. You didn't have access to education. I don't even think my dad graduated high school. You know, you don't have, they didn't have the things that we take for granted. And so they had to be outside of the box. And I'm just the youngest of the bunch, my parents and my brother. So I grew up with that. But when it comes to music, it's exactly what the Flecktones is. And I think that's one of the things that excited, I think, all of us. Um, I know someone's asking how we met, and I think it's a good story to tell. Um, right now, I guess really what ended up happening with me to make it quick is through a bad record deal. Um, for the first time in my life, the five of us brothers weren't playing together anymore. I mean, not constantly. I mean, that was the band, you know, that's what I thought I'd do for the rest of my life. But because of a bad record deal, I can tell the rest of that story later. We weren't doing it. So few of my brothers are in New York. I'm home in Virginia. You know, I'm out of high school or yeah, about out of high school at this time, living at home. All I know is music. So I don't have a job. I'm not helping in the household. I'm not paying rent. And I ended up hearing about a bluegrass fiddling job at Busch Gardens amusement park. So I just went to my high school. I didn't play fiddle. I went to my high school, borrowed a violin, and I don't know how I researched because there was no internet, but I found out like what are the top three fiddle tunes. And I knew one was Orange Blossom Special, another was Devil Went Down to Georgia. I can't remember the third one, but I learned those three and won the audition and started playing fiddle a little bit in that bluegrass.
Wait a second. Like, so you had never played the fiddle in your life, and you picked up a fiddle and practiced for a week, and then you won the audition to play at a major theme park playing fiddle.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
keep
Yeah.
going.
It's funny. It's funny now that I look at it and kind of incredible when I look at it. But the real thing, that's my brother's mentality. It's got strings on it.
Right. What's the
A
problem?
string is a string, you
Yeah.
know,
Hmm.
but putting it under your neck
Hmm.
and bowing, whoever came up with that is wrong. That's just crazy. Right. But, you know, I think the deadline, the audition was coming up. I needed help. I needed money, so that probably helped it. I didn't have time to freak out and say I can't do this. It was only get it done. But it was in that time, I mean, that's an amazing time, my years at Busch Gardens. My life just changed. That's where I met Holly. I met my wife at Busch Gardens. But I ended up playing bass there too. But in the bluegrass and country show, two styles of music I would have told you before then that I didn't like. Right? I was a Motown, R&B, then jazz and fusion, bluegrass, country, nah. But now having to play it, I learned to love it from the inside, right? But my friend John Swaim, who played banjo in the show, he would let me play his banjo. And a banjo's weird, Béla. You know,
Now you tell
like
me.
my bass is tuned in fourths, every string, same interval. Isn't the banjo every string's a different interval?
Yeah, yeah. Your instrument's really easy.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's why they gave it to me, the easy way out. Banjo's weird. But I
It's
would get
really
on my
weird.
friend. Say it again.
Well, it is really weird. And the weird thing for folks that are not musicians or haven't really thought about this is that you can't standardize your idea of where the next note is. So if you play an instrument like violin, for instance, or bass, where
Mm-hmm.
the tune where all the strings are the same distance from each other, fourths or fifths,
Yes.
and you learn what a flat fifth sounds like, and we can come back to flat fifths in a second. Um, and anytime you go to the next string, it's going to be the same distance
Right.
because the tuning is the same from string to string. Um, on banjo, every string is a different distance from the other string, so no interval is the same position for your hands. So it takes a lot of work to get comfortable to own that situation, which is you know. But African music wouldn't sound like it did if it wasn't for that crazy tuning. It creates as many opportunities as problems in the end.
Yeah.
A lot in
Yeah.
there in
Like
those open
life.
tunings. Yeah.
Like life. So I'd get on my friend John's banjo and I'd play my bass stuff, my same, intervals, expecting the intervals to come out. And it would come out so weird. I mean, just the weirdest stuff. And we would just laugh. But my friend says, man, you sound like Béla Fleck. That's the way Béla Fleck plays. Because I'm doing this thumb stuff, three finger stuff
Right.
that I do on the bass. And I'm like, nah, who is Baylor? If somebody's playing banjo as crazy as this sounds, I want to hear it. And he brought in Newgrass Revival. And man, I was blown away. I had never heard bluegrass instruments used in this way.
Hmm.
And so to speed up the story, a couple years later, I came to visit Kurt Story, who's born and raised in Nashville and a really good fiddler. He was the guy that really helped me get better at fiddling that year. I was in one of the bands, he was in the other, and he's a real fiddle player, a good one. He helped me out. So in 1987, I went to visit him. I came to Nashville to visit him, and it was through Kurt that he says, you and Béla need to meet. And he introduced me to you and Mark O'Connor and Edgar Meyer, and that's where it first started.
That's right.
Back in 88 or 87 or so.
That's right. One thing led
Yeah.
to another.
One thing led to another, and here we are.
Next thing you know, old Jed's a millionaire.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was amazing. It's amazing. It was amazing for me when you turned up, out of the sky, because I had kind of, we need to get back to the book, but I had some dreams of putting together a crazy jazz banjo band, and it just I had at a certain point I gave up on the idea because I just didn't have the right people to do it with, and I had resigned myself that I would have to play in Newgrass Revival for the rest of my life, and I was okay. It wasn't the worst thing in the world. I was one of the best bands I've ever been in, incredible band. But I had this other stuff I really wanted to do, and then I think there's a Goethe, Goethe. He says something about that when you form an intention in your mind and you make a decision, the whole world will start to cause it to happen. I'm not saying the quote properly, but that's the basic
Yeah.
idea. So here I had this idea that I wanted to do jazz banjo and do this new music, and then all of a sudden you call me up out of nowhere, a cold call, hey, I'm playing the bass, check this out, and start doing your crazy stuff on the phone.
Over the
Right at the
telephone.
point when I had given up on the whole idea of doing this thing because it was just too heartbreaking trying to make it happen. It just seemed very unlikely that I'd be able to pull it off. And then
Hmm.
you showed up. Just for me, I mean, obviously you came down your road to end up being the person that showed up on my road, but without you showing up, none of this would have happened. So it's crazy how life works that way.
It is, 'cause, yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of pieces. Mom always say life knows better than we do.
Hmm. Yeah.
Sometimes she'd use the word life, sometimes she'd use the word God, it just depends, but it's all the same to me. But there's
Right.
something, life's been around a whole lot longer than my 56 years. Music's been around a whole lot longer. So, I finally kind of learning to allow music to shove me in the direction that music wants to go rather than thinking I have to do it all. But when we look back at it, you had met Howard
Mm-hmm.
at some festival. Some woman said, you guys have to meet.
Right.
So that piece was being put together.
That's right.
Then, back in 81 or so, I'm meeting Kurt. John Swaim is the banjo player in my cast. I'm playing fiddle. He's playing banjo. He's telling me that I'm playing weird like Béla Fleck. So
Mhm.
that seed's getting planted.
Right. Things take
Kurt
time to
goes back to
come.
Nashville.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I first heard you, I was like, well, that's interesting, but what does that have to do with me?
Yeah.
But I said, well, come on over, And when we sat down and played, it wasn't just that you were doing, because like the fact that you were doing this unbelievable stuff was interesting, but it wasn't until we played together and then I realized that that wasn't the focus of your musicality. It was just one section of it, and that what you really did was an energetic kind of playing that was very enabling for the people around you. Which is, I've always wanted to be the kind of person that made other people play better. But
Mm-hmm.
you, when I played with you, all of a sudden I found myself able to do things I'd never been able to pull off before, or I would try them, they'd be okay, but I hadn't found the right context to make it safe and
Mm-hmm.
appropriate. So playing with you was like you were the first guy I'd ever played with where all of a sudden my stuff sounded hip. It didn't sound like I was pushing outside of the bluegrass world too hard or was too jazzy in a song that didn't supposed to be jazzy. It was like, oh, it sounded right. And so when you came over and we played with that, we had this epic jam over on Dakota Avenue,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
uh, and it was like, oh wow, this was this dream that I had had. I could slowly see it, maybe some way, at least maybe doing a record or something. I didn't really ever see it becoming what it became. But
I
can we
don't
go
think
back to
any
your
of us
mom for a
did.
second?
Say it
'Cause
again.
I think go back to your mom for a second because
Sure.
I think about there's an aspect to the book. I'm just trying to pull it back to your book, but there's an aspect to your book that's, and I guess I'm using the word metaphysical, but like I guess for me, I grew up in New York, and we're kind of realists in New York. Like if I don't see it, I don't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
But we would get on the bus on these tours, and you and Future Man and Howard too would tell me these stories of serendipity and coincidence that were pretty hard to believe. But since you had actually experienced them yourself, I remember you telling me about your mother knowing when you were in trouble. Maybe you could talk about some of that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. My everything I talk about, my mom's all in it. And my dad too. But mom was the more vocal one. But yeah, the five of us boys, I think that's one of the reasons we grew up good. Like from age 5 for me, age 5, that means Reggie's only 13, my oldest brother. We grew up in nightclubs and playing gigs, and we saw everything that adults do in nightclubs: drinking, dancing real close, drugs. Guy comes in with a gun, starts shooting, people running out the door. We saw all that stuff. But it's interesting to me that none of my brothers grew up drinking. Nobody drinks, nobody smokes. You won't even hear a curse word from them.
Mm.
So that was my model. So I didn't do that either. But as I think back now, I realize if we did anything bad like that, mom would know. And I don't know how old I was when I finally realized that that was not normal. And I mean, this is real. I one time I was maybe 11th grade or something, and Joseph could drive at this point. Because Joseph's 3 years older than me. So I was probably younger, probably ninth grade, maybe eighth grade. Joseph has his license, and we have dates, and we're going to or coming from a high school something, the ring dance, the homecoming, something, and we're all dressed up, and we get pulled over by the police, lights and everything. And dad had taught us young what to do, if police come, because we saw some bad things happen to our dad by police when we were kid with us in the car. So it's a scary thing if police pull you over. But the policeman came over and was very nice. He saw we were dressed up, and he said, "Sorry to bother you." And he let us know that someone had robbed a 7-Eleven or something like that, a convenience store. Our car fit the description. He knew it wasn't us. Let us go. I can't remember, Béla, if it was that night or the next day. Mom calls. She's 3 hours away at her mom's house in North Carolina. I'm in Newport News, Virginia. Her mom lived 3 hours away. That's where she was. And she calls and says, "Tell me what happened. I saw the lights. Tell me what happened." So now I'm old enough to, at a certain age, you start to challenge your parents a little bit. It happens when you're 2 and you find out you have your own. It happens a little bit later when you figure I can make my own decisions. Well, I was at this place where, "What are you talking about, Ma?" And I knew she was talking about. She's like, "Boy, you know what I'm talking about. Tell me, I saw the lights." And she says she sees it in the back of her head, in the back of her mind. And she said, "I wasn't worried. I knew it wasn't bad, but I saw the lights. Tell me what happened." I said, "Well, what time was it?" And she told me, 11:15 that last night or whatever. She nailed it. And I said, "Okay, Ma, this is what happened." And it was at that age, whatever age I was at, ninth grade, 10th grade, that I'm starting to really question this now. Because as a kid, Joseph and I, if we were home alone with Mom and Mom said, "I have to go to the store," Mom would say, "You boys sit on the couch and don't get up until I get back." Now that sounds really strict, but she just didn't want us to get into whatever trouble boys could get into. So Joseph and I would sit there. He would sit on one couch, I'd sit on the other, and we'd have a little tiny ball, rubber ball, and we would make baskets with our hands, like this. And then I'd try to throw the ball in the basket in his hand, and he'd get it and throw it back. And we would just do that until Mom got back. But man, sometimes that ball would hit our hands and roll in the middle of the floor. And Joseph and I, we would look like, what are we going to do? Because we were serious. Because if we get off this couch, Mom's going to know,
Wow.
And one of us would get up the nerve to run as fast as we could, dive and get the ball and dive back to the couch. Like, I hope she didn't see that, But that's just how we grew up. And it was real.
Yeah.
It was real because her mom had it too, even more, even more. But they grew up with no electricity. All the food was, organic before there was a thing called organic, and they just had that mentality where now our minds are scattered, Facebook, this. So it's still there, but I think it's masked with other things taking our attention.
Right. So since we don't have all that much time, let me ask you about the book a little bit. And the big thing is, you, I don't want to tell you what your book is about, but one of the main concepts in the book, which I think is an awesome idea, is this idea that music is dying, is being it's in trouble. And maybe talk about that idea and explain to people what that
Sure. I'd be happy to, because I put this stuff in a fictional tale, parable to lighten the mood, but it's real stuff, Béla. To the point that as soon as I was done with the book, my Pro Tools quit working. I'm just so happy that it waited. But let's look at it this way, Béla. And I know we were on tour when I was coming up with some of this stuff, so you remember me at least starting to write this new book, The Spirit of Music. But let's look at this. And you mentioned Dan Levitin's name a minute ago. Daniel Levitin helped me. That's the book. Yeah.
Yeah. See?
Nice.
There's more than one.
That's it. Yes, there is more than one. I got my copy. But Dan Levitin helped me with this, and this is in the opening chapter. And I know you helped me quite a bit with that opening chapter, with giving me analogies to help explain this. But here's one. If we think of, you know what? Now I remember talking to you about this. If we think of a foot, 12 inches, as representing the experience of listening to live music, going to a concert, going to a festival, live music. If we were to call that 12 inches, maybe listening to vinyl might be 8 inches. Listening to a CD, which is made up of waveforms, maybe 6 inches. Now, from my knowledge, an MP3 is about a tenth the size of a waveform. So if a waveform is 6 inches, an MP3 is 0.6 inches, a half an inch. Put that half an inch through headphones or computer speakers, we may be down to a quarter inch of frequency, information coming through. This quarter inch is what my kids are growing up thinking is normal. And this has happened in our lifetime, Béla, from live music to a quarter inch. Now, as if that's not enough, now on the radio, everything we hear is pitch corrected. So we're not even getting all the pitches. Everything is quantized, meaning the rhythms are digitally corrected. We're not getting all the rhythms, right? Everything is compressed, right? It's hard to find soft music on the radio. It's compressed. That's why the commercials are louder than the television show. The television show has a little dynamics, but the commercials are just loud. Everything's compressed. So we're not getting the dynamics. We're not getting all the pitches. We're not getting all the rhythms. And we're definitely not getting all the frequencies. So the question that I raise early in the book is, if a human body gets sick, like cancer, the whole body doesn't have to get sick for the whole body to die. You just have to have enough cancer in one part of your body, and then the whole body has the possibility of dying. So I raised the question early on, how much of music has to get sick for all of music to die? It's a crazy question, I know, but listen, we've gone from a foot to a quarter of an inch very fast, and now we don't buy music, right? We don't listen to whole records. If we do listen, it's in my earbuds by myself, where it used to be a community thing. So, we're gaining with a lot of technology, but what are we giving? What are we losing? And I'm raising it as a question, not a statement. I want to raise the question, and then I'm asking the readers, what are we going to do about it? Will you help me? That's pretty much the gist, is that a real word?
Yeah.
Of the book. And then it's through story, and there's some fun. There's some fun. It's not all serious. There's some fun stuff.
Some adventures, some
Adventure.
cases and mysteries that get resolved
Exactly.
and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a neat idea for a book. It's really neat.
It's a fun idea, I think, and I think it's also a valid question to raise.
It's a good question, and it's also another, like, I think of these books as a delivery system of your what you've learned in life. So there's that idea, but along the way, you're also you're teaching things that make sense to you and that have stuck with you, that you've learned from various people.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, including mentioning a banjo player in the first book.
I figured that was probably me. You mentioned a banjo player in the second book too.
In the second book too, which makes its way into the second book. And it talks about, I did it. The second book says, I did a television show with this banjo player, So there's a lot of realness to both stories in both books. But a lot of things that I've learned, literally from you. I mean, things that I teach every day when I'm teaching music, but they wind up in the book also. There's a part in the book where Sifu, the Kung Fu man, says a quote that I got verbatim from you.
Oh, really?
I don't know if you caught that.
What was that?
Sifu, the Kung Fu man, is this arrogant guy in real life and in the book. And one of the characters comments to Sifu about it. And Sifu says, wait a minute, don't mistake confidence with arrogance or arrogance with confidence. And he said, you know, he's talking about, I'm confident, not arrogant. And he says, remember, if you play your own game, you remember the next line? You told me this.
No.
Man, it was so cool. He said, if you play your own game, no one can ever beat you.
Hmm. I said that to, well, I don't know where I heard it, but I do believe it.
Oh,
I
yeah,
really do
man.
believe
I
it.
wrote it down.
Huh.
Yeah. I wrote it down and I kept it. And it, you know, so the things that are in the book are just life stories.
Yeah.
Life stories maybe put into a slightly different story, woven into a different story.
Now, what was the
But
thing
that's powerful.
about the Devil's Interval? There was something about, because I remember reading it and thinking, and you'll have to tell everyone the context, but I remember reading it, and I always thought when you talked about the Devil's Interval, which is the flat fifth, which was against the law to play back in the day,
Yeah.
back in the Inquisition, I guess. Maybe I think
Hmm.
that's about where it was. And I
Yeah.
always thought of it as a flat five chord of some kind. But you talk about it as a diminished chord, and
Well,
I
it
don't
was
think
the
about that.
diminished. Yeah, had the diminished had a demon in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the word diminished, the demon in it. Yeah.
So, but
So
yeah, but I realized I never thought about it being in a diminished chord. But of course, there's two flat fives in a diminished chord, and there's a flat five in any regular seventh chord where the seventh is not majored
yeah,
for you
yeah,
theory freaks out there. So I just struck me. I was like, wait a second, flat five isn't, it's not a diminished chord. It would, but that was the way you used it in the book.
yeah,
Was
yeah,
surprised. Yeah.
yeah. You know, I am a person, and I learned this from you and my brothers. I mean, you made a movie. You know, I just wrote a book. You actually went to Africa and made a movie. You know, so for me, we've just done different versions of the same thing.
Well, it's good
You
to
know?
when you've got something that's that's, I don't know how to put it, that hasn't really been done, and you have an honest reason for doing it. You don't have to know what you're doing. You kind of have to, like, I don't know. You have to build the idea, and then you got to just figure out how you're going to do it. And just if you have a quality to the way you approach your life and what you do, then you're going to do something worthwhile,
Right.
and you're going to learn a lot from it, and hopefully it'll be meaningful to some other people out there. But it doesn't mean like, I don't know. Throw down your heart. Luckily, I had my brother Sasha and he would never made a movie before either. But he was, between the two of us, we were able to make it hold up pretty well. But I don't know if it would hold up, against great movies in the world. But it held up in that what we were trying to do and document was pretty straightforward. It couldn't really be duplicated. Nobody had really done that, so it was going to win in its way because it was itself. It was
Yeah.
itself. So
And because of the intention behind it, and you did it, for me, it's sort of like what you did is sort of like a Willie Nelson or a Bob Dylan or maybe even a BB King. Like a Willie Nelson or a Bob Dylan, if they were in a singing competition, The Voice or a guitar competition, and Willie Nelson entered, he may not win. Or more than likely, I'm guarantee he wouldn't. But what he does is so real that it doesn't have to be the biggest, best guitarist, but it's so real that it touches you.
mm,
And for me, that's what Throw Down Your Heart, your movie, does. Whether it wins awards or whatever, it's real, and you feel that realness. And to me, realness always finds a way through,
yeah.
and that's what I get from that movie.
Well, thank you. I still have an emotional reaction when I see it again, when I have to, like, promote it or something, and it's like, and I watch it again. I'm like, wow, what a trip! I can't believe I did it, and I can't believe it got out there and
Yeah,
people found out about it and it did well. But most of all, it was the experiences with the people all over Africa that was really
yeah.
intense and beautiful.
It's
Yeah,
amazing where the banjo can lead, right?
yeah, and where it comes from, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Somebody's asking out there, Baylor, did you ever have a plan B? Was there something else you had ever, you know?
besides playing banjo.
I guess,
Well,
like, I mean, it's what we do is a risk.
yeah.
It's a gamble. Um, you know. So did you have, in case it didn't work, did you ever think about it?
I kind of jumped off the deep end, and although people would tell me that it was unlikely I was going to be able to make a good living as a banjo player or a living period, and people, even great people like my banjo teacher Mark Horowitz or Ricky Skaggs, the great Ricky Skaggs said, "Well, you really need to learn a bunch of instruments so you can be a utility man in a country band. That's the only way you can make a living playing the banjo." And then I would play the banjo on 3 songs, and then I'd play pedal steel, some fiddle, some mandolin. I was like, I'm not doing that. I didn't care too much about this thing. But for me, the banjo was almost like a civil rights thing because when I grew up as you did in the civil rights era, and I was around for Martin Luther King, and I was around for Kennedy, and all of these things that happened. And for some reason, I thought those were the heroes, the people who fought for everybody back then. And then at a certain point, I fell in love with the banjo. I started playing the banjo, and I would walk down the street, and people would laugh at me and make fun of me. And for some reason, I got this vibe that the banjo was being mistreated by everybody. It was in need of a civil rights movement because it was, and I didn't even know at that time, or barely knew, the true history of the banjo, that it came from enslaved people and brought over to America, against its will, essentially, and then flowered and became part of this whole world, this whole musical world over here, and has so many lives, many more than obviously the bluegrass world. Although it's one of the most incredible musics ever. Without Earl Scruggs, I wouldn't play the banjo, but it was also in Louis Armstrong's band. There were also the classical banjo orchestras. There was Dixieland. There was so many things with the banjo. So for me, I always felt like I was fighting for the banjo's honor, and it wasn't a joke to me. The banjo wasn't a joke. So I don't know where I'm going with this, but at any rate, you certainly helped me get it over the hump for a lot of people, like surrounding myself with musicians of your caliber, and your brother and Howard, and going out there and playing music that was fresh and new with it, really proved the point in a
Yeah.
great way.
Yeah, it was cool because everybody in the Flecktones had that mentality. I mean, even when Jeff came into the band, it was like almost finally, a normal instrument, a
Right,
saxophone. But Jeff wasn't normal.
right.
Jeff had his own thing. He was playing two at a time, and
Right.
then
Well, I guess getting back to that idea, and sorry to interrupt, but like I think you probably have the same feeling about the bass, because I see that you look at bass players as being underappreciated, and the fact, like a bass player that can soloing on the bass is seemed like a very rare thing. Obviously, we heard it in jazz, but I could see that was a civil rights thing for you, the rights of the instrument, that you wanted to
yeah,
elevate the instrument out of just being a subservient instrument, have its own voice and have its own expression that no other instrument could do. And I knew that
mhm,
Howard felt that way about the harmonica, and Future Man thought that way about the drums. And then when Jeff came along, he had those feelings about the saxophone, and we
totally.
take on the battles of our instruments as we fall in love with them.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love it. I love it. And we were able to do it together. As Roy, Future Man, once said, "We're all out on a limb together."
yeah. I have
And
a friend who
I
used to
just,
say I used to get out on the end of the limb and turn around and just start sawing on it when I would play it. So we were out standing on the end of the limb, sawing on it. Let's see what
yeah,
would happen. But yeah, I don't think we could have achieved what we did without four people like that.
right,
Because that
right,
was
right.
one person was just an anomaly, or an oddity, or a band leader. But with four people as wacky and creative as Flecktone guys, it became a little more of a phenomenon, and more entertaining for people
Hmm.
to give it a shot, and then hopefully the music would actually hook them, and they would want to come back and hear it again.
Right. And it gave us, I know it gave us for confidence in each other, in ourselves, because, all of a sudden we're not alone. I was lucky enough to have my brothers growing up. So I grew up with that. So someone was asking, did I ever have a plan B? No. And that's what threw me out of a loop when all of a sudden my brothers and I weren't playing together.
Mm,
It was a sad time. It's the one time I can really remember being down. And yeah. But life knew better than me, and I became a better musician when to use the phrase, I moved out of the house per se, and
yeah,
started learning how to play with other people.
right.
I became a better musician. My I had that foundation because of my brothers, and then I could take that to play with people like you or
Well,
whatever.
it seems like the great thing is that your brothers are still there. You guys are able to come back to that and celebrate that. And
Sure.
I see now that you you know, are able to go out and tour and do your own thing, you can bring them out, and the brothers can be your band, and you can celebrate all of them and show off how incredible they are and play the brothers' music
Right.
at your own shows. And I've seen you do that
Hmm.
a lot, and it's a great thing. That band, though, you guys are something. Holy cow! But
It,
hey,
it's like for me, it's just like coming back home. It's so easy.
yeah,
Like that
that's like
Christmas
and
special. What's
go ahead.
that?
Oh, go ahead. I was going to say I have my brothers. They're not my actual brothers, but my bluegrass bros, Sam Bush, Jerry
Exactly.
Douglas, Edgar. They're like it's almost too easy
Right.
for I'm not.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. Same thing. You just get together and it's like, there it is. Yeah, same thing. Béla, maybe one more question, and then I don't want to keep people too long. But someone's asking about feeling timid to show their musicality. One person out there says that they said, my art is everything I put my hand to. My music is everything I resonate with. What in the new book might speak to a person like me who has a musical voice but is timid to express it?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, you can.
Any thoughts about that? I have a lot of thoughts about it.
Well, I would just say that a lot about the book, people are thinking you have to have your instrument or have your facility on an instrument to make music, and very often you're saying, "Oh, hang on, you can be a musician with a rubber band. You can be
Right.
a musician with with a pencil.
Hmm.
You can be a musician." So you should take
Yeah.
the question.
And well, you're absolutely right. And it's not even that you have to get your music out. You can just be musical and nobody knows.
Hmm.
Like one of the most musical people I know is my mom's younger sister, my aunt Ann Lois. Man, she is so musical. Doesn't play anything, but she could be carrying a pot from the stove, and if the right song comes on, she just start convulsing. I mean, that music, she just feels it literally from her toes to the top of her head. And I've never seen anyone who understands music and lets it move them in that way. And as kids, she was one of the aunts and relatives that turned us on to so much music. Donny Hathaway live with Willie Weeks bass solo. Victor, you got to listen to this. Curtis Mayfield or whatever. Right. So she's not a musician, but one of the most musical people that I know. But I think the main problem for many people is that we think that when we play music that there's a right way to do it. And we're so afraid of doing it wrong in front of people. Like whoever feels timid, whoever said that, I know they're not timid alone. Singing in the shower, singing on the way to work. No timid there. It's just when someone's watching that we kind of care what they think so much, maybe.
I have a thought, which is that the over perfecting of music, which I am guilty of myself when I get the chance, as you know, has made people afraid to make mistakes. And as you say, I like the way you put it that rather than saying there's in tune and there's out of tune, that every pitch in between in tune and out of tune are important pitches as well. Um, as we quantize, make the music perfect, and we sing, and we go, oh well, that doesn't sound as good or as perfect as what we're hearing on the radio. That's been worked over by a computer. We immediately dismiss our own musicality because we can't be like a computer, but we're not supposed to be like a computer.
Right.
So I think that can be a problem for people. And
Exactly.
I'll tell you this one other thought, which is I know your kids. I'm sure this will be true for your kids too. But Juno, my son Juno, feels some pressure around music because he's used to me being picky about it, and yet he's incredibly musical, and he's not disciplined yet, and I don't know if he will be, but he doesn't want to sound bad. He does
Mm.
not want to. He does not want to be in the position to sound bad. Um, but we've been doing this thing where we have the family jam where we just nobody is allowed to say anything about anybody's playing, and we don't poke at them and say, hey, you need to get your groove together or that wasn't good. There's always love, and we just let the sounds happen. But every once in a while, when you get him in that state where he can't really play anything with any technique or anything, he'll just sit down at the piano and play something I never could have come up with in a million years. It has all this space, and there's a beginning and a middle and an end and a melody and some grooves that are implied that he can't play yet. And it just reminds me, about just if you judge that, you'll never let him become a musician. If you start saying, hey, okay, now try and get the beat, no, just let him find it for now, and
Bingo, bingo. It's exactly how they learn to talk. We just let them do it.
mhm.
Yeah, we don't overcorrect them when they're learning to talk.
But they get
Yeah,
to watch somebody doing it well.
absolutely.
So that's where live music is great. And
Yeah.
obviously YouTube is great in that you can see a lot of live music on YouTube. It's not the same
Hmm.
experience, but it's
Yeah.
something. It's not nothing either. Like there's a lot
Right.
more than people can watch than
Right.
you and I couldn't watch this stuff when we were coming up. We had to figure out by hook or by crook, and we didn't know exactly how people were doing things. And so sometimes we would figure out our own solution, which was not the way they did it, but became part of our style because we
Right.
because we it wasn't all spelled out for us. There weren't all these instructional
Exactly.
manuals and
Exactly.
so forth. Yeah. Anyway, it's fun
Yeah.
talking about all this. Yes, a music lesson still available? Should I read that first? I think you should read it first. Personally, I would think the second book would be better if you'd read the first one. What do you think?
Well, yeah, it can work in either direction. You could, because the second book, The Spirit of Music, will stand on its own. And if you went back after it and read it, you'd go, that's who that is. Oh, that's what that meant. And it still will work. But if you read the first one first, the second one makes more sense as you're going. But sometimes it's nice to discover something after the fact, you
Yeah,
know.
like
So
seeing
it really can work in either direction.
yeah,
Yeah.
like Star Wars movies being out of sequence or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Either way is fun. And an audio version is coming too. There's an audio version for the music lesson, and the audio version for the Spirit of Music is coming soon. And the audiobook is fun. India Ari sings on it, and she is the voice of music. So her voice reads every chapter. You listen closely, you'll hear Béla Fleck's banjo. Great. Now a Nashvilleian, Keb Mo, is the voice of my dad in the book. My mom's sister is my mom's voice. Great ukulele player Jake Shimabukuro plays beautiful piece in one scene in a music store. Um, the local guitarist Eric Silver. Eric Silver used to play with Grisman, playing violin, mandolin, and so he plays on. There's a lot of fun people, and of course my brothers and Jeff Coffin and Howard Levy and Bakiti Kumalo from the Paul Simon band. A lot of fun stuff. Steve Bailey, John Patitucci's on it. A lot of fun music on there. But I do my audiobooks if you ever want to listen to a different audiobook. I do them different. Every character is a different voice. And then it's kind of scored like a movie. There's a whole music behind it for both books. So that's coming soon. And I just hope people will check it out. I hope people enjoy it. I can say that I wrote it, but the stories come from everywhere. The influences are just from life. And, everybody has a story to tell, whether we ever tell it or whether we ever get the means to tell it. Everybody lives a life that could be a movie soundtrack. That could be a book. Everybody's life is that interesting. Um, but it does take a little bit of effort to write a book, to write a song, to make a movie, and not everybody needs to do it. you know but going back to the person who's timid and playing music, when you have a story to tell, it doesn't take as much to tell it. When the story's there, like Willie Nelson singing, Bob Dylan, when they sing one note, that realness comes through. It's because they've lived a life. you know and when we're young and don't have much of a story, we need more technique to say what we want to say. We need more words. We're not as articulate. But especially if you're older, tell that story. And if you can tell it through music, people will listen. And I think that's why BB King is known. More than, as much as I love Pat Metheny or Alan Holdsworth, more people know BB King as a guitarist. And I think it's because the story is understood more. It's a simpler story that people feel when BB King plays it. So tell that story, write it down if you want, make a movie. But I also want to thank Vintage Books, and of course, I want to thank everybody out there for supporting our local Parnassus bookstore. Right, we're all in this pandemic and quarantine. We need to make sure that these great local places can survive. Right, so I urge you, if you're going to get this book or these books, I urge you to get them from Parnassus Books. I know many of you out there know Ann Patchett, but there's a lot of great people that are involved that make this store run, and we want to see it. We want to see it continue throughout this pandemic and on and on and on, as well as a bunch of local stores and local venues. Um, yeah. So, Béla, last question. What's next? Pandemic's going to end. What's next? Where's the music business going to be? Where are you going to be?
I think there's going to be a lot of energy out there when shows start happening again. I just don't know if people will have any money to go to those shows because a lot of people are struggling. But I think the energy and love of music is going to be out of the off the charts. I have a friend who lives in New Zealand, and he told me that they did some they've done a great job at managing the pandemic down there, and he told me that they did a festival down there, and it was the largest crowd they'd ever seen, and people were just out of I don't want to say out of control, but wildly enthusiastic about actually being together and having that experience again. And I hope people are go out and embrace the opportunity to go out and hear live music and be share an experience with other people in the same room, in the same airspace when it's safe for us all again, because it's a
Yeah,
different experience than oh, did you watch that Netflix thing? Oh no, I'm going to watch it next. All together in the same airspace is an experience,
exactly.
a group. There's something about that that's part of humanity, is part of us, that I'm
I
looking forward to
agree.
going back to know, that
Yeah,
moment.
that's actually talks about that in the spirit of music, about how cultures used to live in tribes. And actually, I mentioned our friend Chuparu in the book. I changed his name a little bit, but I got a story from him how his their whole family was separated in Australia. As you know, they separated all the people of color, and but how a man saw him playing one day and said, "Who's your mother?" and
Oh,
recognized the music and everything, and helped get his family back together. And but I'm talking. It seems like there's an inner yearning to belong to a tribe.
mm,
And in this country, other than family, the closest thing we really have is a concert. Because you get to go there and be with people like you. We came there to agree. Yeah, there's a band, but we're all together as one. We're a
right.
tribe, and we get to feel that experience again. And I do think, like you said, there's an inner yearning for that. And I believe, even with the little money we may have left, we'll be willing to pay for some music again
Yeah, and maybe we'll make
and
it
listen
cheaper.
to it.
Maybe we'll find a way to make it work for everybody.
Yeah,
I hope more people, support that live music experience. Um,
yeah,
it makes the whole thing work for so many people. That now that record sales and that whole side of it is not an economically powerful engine for all of us anymore. Like for you and me, we know if we're going to make some money, we're going to make it by hitting the road, because people want to come see us do what we do in person, and we can make it special every night for that situation. They know they're not going to hear the same thing that we played the night before in a different town. It's going to be
right,
personal to each experience, and that's important to us because it means
right,
it's real for us. But so yeah,
right. Great. Exactly.
and I'm looking
Well,
forward to
Béla, man.
loving the time with well, I'm loving the time with my family, and I know it'll never be like this again. And I know you
Yeah,
are too. But
yeah.
I'll be happy to play with you again.
It's gonna be fun.
It will be.
I'm ready for it. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Yeah,
Béla, thanks, man. Thanks for your
my
time.
pleasure. Thanks for inviting me to be part of this. And
Yeah.
congratulations on the book. It's another really special, very Victor situation, which is a wonderful thing.
Thank
Best
you.
you can do is be yourself, and you've managed to do it once again.
Well, I had good examples. So thank you.
All right, take it
Appreciate
easy.
that. And thank you everyone out there for being here and joining us as we catch up with each other. It's been a while since last May since we've seen each other. This has been a lot of fun. I'm gonna have to come drive through your driveway again sometime soon.
Let's do it.
All right. Thank you all. I really, really appreciate it. And you all stay peaceful and happy, healthy and happy. And we hope to see you sometime soon.